Got the email at 9:07 a.m. sharp. No subject line. Just meeting with HR and executive leadership. 9:30 a.m. Conference room B. No explanation, no warning. My stomach didn't even drop. That should have scared me, but it didn't. I'd worked at Mason Keller Tech for 17 years. 17. Showed up during blizzards. Took calls on Christmas Eve. Built the architecture that still ran their core product. By hand, line by line. Missed my own dad's funeral because Tom said the rollout couldn't wait. I pushed back from my desk without a word, grabbed my badge, and walked. Past the server room, the one I'd fought like hell to upgrade 3 years ago, when they were still running everything on those junky half-dead boxes. Still smelled faintly of burnt plastic and old sweat. Guys still called it Doug's Den. Not officially, but the nickname stuck, even after they stopped saying my name out loud. Down the hallway, I passed the award wall. My old project, flagship system launch, front and center in a glass frame. Still up, still shining. The press article quoted Tom like he was the genius behind it. He wasn't. I was. I wrote the damn core framework during a 3-day weekend. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I paused outside conference room B. The door was closed, blinds drawn, cold air blew from the overhead vent, but I felt nothing. Just that weird hum in my ears, like my body was ahead of my brain. I walked in. Tom was already seated, flipping through a folder like he hadn't read it 10 times. That same stiff, fake sincere look he gave when he was about to screw someone over. Across from him sat Karen from HR, hands clasped like she was leading a prayer. "Doug," Tom said, "we've made the difficult decision to eliminate your role as part of our ongoing restructuring." I looked him dead in the eye. Didn't argue, didn't blink. "Understood," I said. Karen slid a folder across the table. Inside, severance terms, 2 months of health insurance, the usual legal cleanup. She started to speak, but I was already standing. "Thank you," I said. That was it. No big scene, no begging or bargaining. I stepped out of the room, folder in hand, and kept walking. Not because I was fearless. I wasn't. I was just done. I stepped into the elevator, still holding the HR folder, pressed the button for the ground floor, leaned back, and exhaled once. Quietest damn ride of my life. Earlier that morning, I'd signed the offer letter from Calix Systems. Their director of strategy, Glenn Jacobs, had reached out months ago. Just a short message on LinkedIn. "Been watching your work, Doug. You open to a conversation?" I wasn't. Not at first. Loyalty still meant something to me back then, even if I was getting nothing for it. But the cracks kept spreading. Tom took credit again during a Q4 update. Talked up his team's innovation while I sat 10 feet away. Then he promoted Sean, his golfing buddy, to VP, barely 3 years out of college. And when the system went down last September, I got chewed out even though I'd flagged the exact vulnerability 2 weeks before. That's when I took the first call with Glenn. Just a conversation, I told myself, then another. Then a private lunch downtown where he slid a folder across the table with Calix's letterhead on top. Head of infrastructure, full autonomy, stock options, my team, my call. I didn't even blink. I signed it the next morning. So when Tom said, "Your role's been eliminated," it didn't land like a blow. It was background noise. Back at my desk, I grabbed the essentials, flash drive, charger, a framed photo of my daughter from her high school graduation. Left the Mason Keller coffee mug behind. The cheap headset too. That place didn't deserve to come with me. By 5 p.m., I was walking out with one small box. Right by the badge station, a young intern was checking in equipment. Couldn't have been more than 22, eyes wide like he just saw a ghost. "Are you leaving?" he asked. "Apparently," I said, handing him my badge. His mouth opened like he wanted to say something else, but I didn't give him the time. I pushed the door open and walked straight into the parking lot, sun hitting me right in the face. I didn't look back. Sitting in my car, I glanced down at the Calix folder on the passenger seat. Thick packet, official, real. The offer was signed, sealed, already processed. I wasn't jobless, I wasn't lost. I was already hired. I was already building again. And what Tom and Karen didn't know, I wasn't leaving with just a severance packet. I was leaving with everything that mattered, my work, my integrity, and an open runway to take the people they ignored and outbuild the company that pushed us out. The thing about systems, good ones remember. They remember who wrote the code, who stayed late to debug, who gave a damn. They'd find out soon enough. I turned the key, started the engine, and drove out of the parking lot without hesitation. Let the silence stay behind me. I had better things to make noise about. I pulled into the garage at Calix's downtown tower and parked in the spot labeled Reserved Executive. Didn't feel real yet. No badge, no branded laptop, just a signed offer and my name on the schedule. Inside, the front desk receptionist looked up with a smile before I even said a word. "Mr. Bennett, welcome. Glenn's expecting you on the 19th floor." I nodded. "Thanks." The elevator doors closed, and for the first time in months, I felt that tight knot in my chest start to loosen. Ding. 19th floor. Glenn Jacobs met me right outside the elevator. Firm handshake. No BS. "Doug, glad you're here. Let's walk," he said, already leading the way down a wide hallway with glass-walled offices on both sides. Floor-to-ceiling windows flooded the space with light. People were moving, talking, solving, building, not just typing into the void. "I've followed your work longer than you probably think," Glenn said. "You did more with scraps at Mason Keller than most teams do with a full-stack budget. You shouldn't have been buried there as long as you were. I appreciated that. No fluff, just facts." He introduced me to my direct reports, half a dozen engineers, designers, analysts. Bright-eyed, sharp. One of them, Janelle, handed me a folder thick with platform specs and said, "We've been waiting on someone who actually gets the infrastructure side. It's all half-baked right now." Glenn smirked. "That's why you're here?" We walked into the corner office. My name wasn't on the door yet, but the view was already better than anything I'd had at Mason. "This'll be your space." "And your project," Glenn said, leaning against the doorframe. "We want you to lead the platform rebuild, from the ground up. You get to pick your team." That hit me hard. Not because I wasn't ready, but because someone finally handed me the keys without strings attached. I dropped my bag, opened the laptop, and got to work. By 6 p.m., I was still at my desk. Not because I had to be, because I wanted to be. I pulled up LinkedIn, filtered by connections, and typed 5 names. People I'd worked shoulder to shoulder with. The quiet ones who always got skipped over. Brian, Olivia, Miguel, Claire, Jordan. I'd mentored every one of them. Saw how sharp they were, how hard they worked, how invisible Mason made them feel. Subject line: time to build something better. Message: I've landed somewhere new. Real leadership, real product. I want you on this team. Let's talk. I hit send and leaned back. By midnight, every single one had replied. Brian: hell yes. Olivia: just tell me when. Miguel: I'm in. Been waiting for this. Claire: let's burn the old blueprint. Jordan: finally. I didn't respond right away. I just stared at the screen for a minute, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Momentum. I stood up, stretched, and looked out the window at the city. I wasn't just starting a new job, I was starting over. But this time, I had firepower. Tomorrow, we'd start building. Tonight, I just let it sink in. This was my second chance, and I wasn't wasting it. By Monday morning, the ripple hit. I opened LinkedIn while sipping my coffee, and there it was. 4 of my old team lit up, open to work, like a signal fire. Same banner, same green ring. Didn't take long. 10 minutes later, I got a DM from a former colleague in IT. Tom called an emergency meeting this morning, asked why half the department is dusting off resumes. I almost spit my coffee. The man who once told me no one was irreplaceable had just realized people were already replacing him. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. By Wednesday, 2 of those 4 had signed with Calix. Jordan was first. Sharp, dependable, never flashy. The kind of guy who did twice the work with half the noise. I offered him flexibility and a stake in the product. He said yes in 20 minutes flat. Next was Claire, legal analyst, brilliant mind, always boxed out of real meetings at Mason Keller. She messaged, Doug, I want to work where I can actually do something, not just proofread other people's mistakes. I looped in Calix's legal team, walked her through the package, and signed her that night. Every contract, rock solid. Non-competes reviewed. Transition terms clean. I didn't leave any holes for Mason's lawyers to crawl through. Glenn walked into my office later that afternoon, holding a printed email. We've already had one of Mason's former clients reach out, asking if you were taking new contracts. You're not even 30 days in. I grinned. Let's talk to them. He slapped the email down on my desk. I like how you move, Bennett. Around 8 p.m., I was still at the office going through onboarding docs when a message popped up from Brian. Screenshot attached. No message. Just an image of Tom's LinkedIn profile. New headline, Chief Strategy Officer, Mason Keller Technologies. No announcement, no post. Just a quiet little edit. The kind of thing you do when you're trying to bury a demotion under a title change. I stared at it for a second, then closed the tab. A few minutes later, Claire pinged me from our new internal chat system. Claire, FYI, heard from someone still at Mason. They're spiraling. Me, yeah? Claire, you were the backbone. They just figured that out. That one sat with me. Not because I needed the validation, screw that, but because deep down, I knew she was right. I'd carried that place for years, silently. I shut my laptop, stood up, and grabbed my jacket. The office was quiet, lights dimmed. I looked back once before heading out. I didn't feel guilty. I felt ready. We weren't poaching. We were giving good people a way out. And Mason Keller, they were just starting to feel the loss. By the end of week 2, we were locked in. 4 new hires, all sharp, all ready. Olivia was the first one through the door. Smartest analyst I ever worked with. Fast, focused, surgical with data. She'd been buried under layers of pointless approvals at Mason Keller. I didn't even finish the offer before she said, I'm in. She didn't ask about title or perks, just said, I'm done waiting for people who don't get it. Miguel came next. Quiet guy, but lethal with code. Once pulled Mason Systems out of a full meltdown at 3 a.m., while Tom was off at some board dinner. When I made the offer, he didn't hesitate. I just want to build again, he said. Not survive, not justify myself. Build. We onboarded them fast, got everyone synced up in the new repo, cleaned out our dev pipeline, and kicked off our first sprint like we'd been running it for years. Tuesday morning, Glenn stepped into the war room mid-meeting, stood in the back, arms crossed, listening to Olivia break down version control timelines like she'd been born to lead it. When we hit pause, he spoke. 3 more Mason Keller clients want demos, he said. 2 of them asked for Doug Bennett by name. I just smiled. Back at my desk an hour later, my phone buzzed. Brian. Congrats on the new gig. Let's catch up. No apology, no acknowledgement, just that casual tone people use when they pretend the past never happened. This was the same guy who threw me under the bus in front of Tom and then ghosted me when I pushed back. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then closed the message and got back to work. Let him stew. I wasn't dragging old weight into this build. That night, our team chat blew up. Jokes, inside stories, gifs flying everywhere. Miguel dropped a screenshot of one of Mason's old server dashboards we used to complain about. Claire jumped in with, "How did this even pass audit?" Jordan replied, "Because Doug was the only one keeping it alive." Olivia finally wrote, "You saw us when no one did. We're ready to go all in." That one landed, not because I needed the praise, but because that's what we were doing now, going all in. No politics, no filters. Just good people building real things. I leaned back, watching the team talk like they'd known each other for years, like the weight was finally coming off. This was what Mason Keller could have been if they'd listened, if they'd invested in the ones who actually did the work instead of chasing titles and covering each other's screw-ups. I didn't say anything in the chat. I just kept watching, because I knew what was coming next. Momentum was building, and this time, we weren't holding anything back. Monday morning, I logged in early. Barely finished my first sip of coffee when Jordan pinged me from data. Jordan, FYI, Tom tried running the Monday sync himself. Me, how'd that go? Jordan, he looked lost. Dodged every question about your departure. I sat back and smirked. That meeting used to run like clockwork when I led it. Tom barely even showed up. Now he was fumbling through it solo, pretending everything was fine while the ground under him cracked. Tuesday around noon, I got a message from a buddy who worked with one of our old clients, mid-sized logistics firm out of Denver. "Doug, are you available for a contract? Mason's tools are failing." That wasn't small talk. That was blood in the water. I looped in Glenn and Claire, flagged the conflict risk, and got the legal green light by end of day. I didn't chase it. I didn't have to. They came to us. By Wednesday morning, Miguel dropped by my office, shaking his head as he logged in. "You're gonna love this." I was expected to explain the system you built in a 30-minute PowerPoint. Been there 8 months, and they acted like I was the architect. I laughed. Did you? Hell no. I told them to stop trying to rewire stuff they don't understand. They didn't like that. Good, I said. That means you're finally in the right place. That same day, I got an email from a well-placed source inside Mason. No subject line. Just a screenshot of an internal announcement. We're restructuring to increase agility and position ourselves for long-term innovation. Translation: total chaos. Layoffs, reorgs, desperate PR spin with no plan underneath it. I forwarded it to Claire. She wrote back 5 minutes later, Claire, they're using agility like duct tape. It won't hold. That night, Glenn took me out for drinks. We grabbed a booth at a place a block from HQ. Dim lighting, stiff drinks, no suits in sight. He raised his glass. You've done more in 3 weeks than I expected in 3 months. I clinked mine against his. Told you I wasn't showing up to coast. No, he said. You showed up to build something that lasts. Friday, Claire officially joined us full-time. She stopped by my office that afternoon, legal pad in hand, already tearing through compliance bottlenecks. She leaned on the doorframe and said, "You know what's weird? What? Being somewhere that listens. I'm still not used to it." I looked up from my screen. You will be. She smiled, tossed a folder on my desk. Client onboarding checklist, no fluff, just results. We were moving fast now, faster than any of us expected. The foundation was down. The team was set. And Mason Keller, they were trying to plug leaks with press statements. Good luck with that. Following Monday, Glenn popped his head into my office with a look that said, "You're not going to believe this. Mason pulled out of the Atlanta Tech Conference," he said. I raised an eyebrow. Pulled out? They sponsor that thing every year. He nodded. No statement. Just vanished off the exhibitor list overnight. I leaned back in my chair, folded my arms. That wasn't a scheduling issue. That was retreat. Quiet, messy, and fast. 2 hours later, Glenn called. This time, no small talk. 3 of their clients just reached out. All want demos. 2 of them asked for you by name. I didn't react. Just kept my voice level. "We'll meet with the serious ones," I said. "Let the rest stew." He laughed under his breath. "You're becoming a storm, Bennett." That afternoon, Miguel slid into my office holding up his phone like it was contaminated. "You'll love this," he said. "Mason Recruiter just hit me up." No kidding? Same guy who ghosted Olivia 2 years ago. Wouldn't even take her 3rd-round call. I shook my head. "What did you tell him?" Miguel smirked. Told him I already had a seat at the grown-up table. I chuckled and nodded toward the team chat window on my screen. Drop it in there. 2 minutes later, everyone saw it. Screenshots, reactions, the whole team lit up. Claire messaged me privately a few minutes later. "Claire, Tom's trying to rebrand himself as head of innovation. Word is the board isn't buying it." I tapped out a quick reply. Me. "Guess Chief Strategy Officer didn't hold up." Claire, "It never did." I paused, staring at the blinking cursor. There was no part of me that wanted to gloat. Not anymore. This wasn't revenge, this was impact. And we were winning. No politics, no red tape. No ghosted emails or backdoor promotions. Just product, people, and results. The chat pinged again. Miguel posted a gif of a crumbling castle with the caption, "Live look at Tom's LinkedIn." I didn't join in, just smiled, closed the window, and turned back to the sprint roadmap on my whiteboard. We had too much to do. 3 months after they cut me loose, I walked into Calix's quarterly summit like I belonged there, because I did. The presentation screens were already up, team stats, upcoming launches, and a big fat headline across the main slide. Infrastructure revamp lands $14 million contract. That deal? One of Mason Keller's top targets. They'd chased it for over a year, never closed it. Too much jargon, too little execution. We did it in 10 weeks. No buzzwords, no whiteboard theatrics. Just function that worked, scaled, and solved the damn problem. Before I even sat down, Glenn clapped me on the back. Client said they've never seen a turnaround like this, he said. Their CIO was speechless. I nodded. That's what happens when you give the builders a seat at the table. Half an hour later, I got a call on my cell. Didn't recognize the number, but I picked up anyway. "Doug, it's Vanessa Carr," she said. "I just wanted to let you know. We're moving everything to Calix. Contracts are signed. We're done with Mason." Vanessa had been with Mason Keller for years. Old school, loyal, conservative with tech shifts. If she made the jump, it wasn't emotion, it was logic. Then she added, like it was an afterthought, Brian reached out, wanted to consult. I told him no thanks. That part hit different. The call ended, and I just sat there for a second, holding the phone. That was the last of the major Mason clients. Gone. Their empire wasn't just cracking, it was collapsing. That Friday, we kicked off our first off-site strategy retreat. No marble lobbies, no suits. Just a restored farmhouse 45 minutes outside the city. Windows open, whiteboards set up in every room, and coffee that actually tasted like coffee. Olivia was pacing the front porch, walking through her product roadmap with Claire, who was taking notes and challenging every blind spot. Miguel had already set up a makeshift server test on a folding table in the kitchen. Jordan brought his dog. Nobody cared. We got more done in one afternoon than most exec teams do in a quarter. At one point, an intern, Austin, bright kid, still finding his voice, raised his hand and said, "So, what are we calling this initiative?" The room went quiet for a second. Not awkward, just waiting. I walked over to the giant whiteboard, uncapped a black marker, and wrote 4 bold letters. Fix. That was it. Fix the systems. Fix the process. Fix what the other guys broke. Miguel leaned back in his chair and nodded. That works? Claire smiled. It's exactly what we've been doing. Olivia grinned. Let's make it official. We weren't just building new infrastructure. We were rebuilding trust between teams, with clients, with each other. Sunday night, just after 10, I saw the notification pop up on my phone. No subject line. Just the first line of the message. We made a mistake. I made a mistake. It was from Tom. I opened it. I was under pressure. Didn't see your value. Everything fell apart after you left. I'm sorry. That was it. No signature, no ask. Just guilt typed out like it fixed anything. I didn't respond, didn't forward it, didn't screenshot it, didn't save it. Closure doesn't come from words. It comes from action. Monday morning, Glenn called an all hands. We were packed into the main conference space. Engineers, analysts, interns, even a few clients on a live stream. He stepped up to the mic and said, "Starting today, Calix will launch a new mentorship and training initiative for engineers who've been overlooked, boxed out, or buried in the wrong roles." He paused, looked straight at me. "We're naming it the Doug Bennett Fellowship." Applause broke out across the room. I didn't say anything, just stood up, shook his hand, and nodded once. 1 year ago, I walked out of Mason Keller with a cardboard box and no plan but to build something better. Now, I was standing in a glass office overlooking a team that believed in the work, believed in each other, and somehow, still believed in me. My computer pinged. "Miguel, hey boss, we just landed 2 more ex-Mason clients. That makes 8. A second later, Miguel. "Also, we're gonna need a bigger office." I smiled. Not because I won,